Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey,
How
how's
are
it
you?
going?
I'm doing all right.
Nice. Okay, so maybe we can just get started right away. You can do a quick intro for the stream. Just say like where you're from, how long you've been playing, your main, your tag, all that stuff.
I'm Vay. I've been playing since late or like mid 2018. I recently started competing like at locals late last year, like when locals came back. I'm a Fox player. I switched from Falco to Fox over like the summer of 2021,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and I live in New York now, but I'm SoCal originally.
Okay. Okay,
I was
cool.
actually
Hmm?
I was at Verdugo last week.
Oh,
I put
really?
against, yeah, I put against Arrow in round two. I don't know if you
Oh,
remember
did,
that.
did did we talk at all?
I think a little bit. We talked about like the not the one before grand finals. It was versus PhD's Nuts and the other Fox. I don't remember.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, well, I don't remember, but my memory is not great for Verdugos. You've been to so many locals in the same building that it's hard to keep all the memories
Yeah,
together.
they all mesh into one.
Mm-hmm. But okay, so that's cool. Let me grab this VOD really quick, and I'll screen share for you.
Where Wizard?
Okay, there we go.
All right, got it.
Okay, so all right. So what's going on? Like, what is the issue here, and what are you trying to fix and stuff like that?
So I think like a lot of me like improving and playing the game like has just come from myself and like kind of figuring out what I want to do like intuition wise,
Hmm.
as well as kind of just like building like what I can do like physically, like micro wise
Hmm.
and mechanically. But I think it'd be good to kind of like just have like a more truer perspective that kind of like has answers a little bit, as well as like learning to like what I should look for. Because oftentimes I feel like there's things that like I know what to look for, but like I want to know like kind of something to push myself into a direction that I know will win, if that makes sense.
Okay, I see. I do know what you're talking about. Like, you want it to be a bit more structured, have a better game plan rather than just kind of like playing it by feel.
Yeah, because I think also since I switched to Fox, like I've been learning a lot of Fox things, but I
Hmm.
haven't been learning a lot of like super matchup specific stuff that I should like really kind of
Hmm. Okay.
have
All
in my
right. Well, I
brain.
guess we'll start going through it and we'll kind of talk about it and we'll see if we can find some stuff to discuss. Okay. So, do you usually beat this person or?
In friendlies we trade, but
Mm-hmm.
they're set up against me, or I guess two now after this one. But in friendlies we usually trade games, and they're like they will go either way, like relatively close, like twos, one stop, you know.
Okay. Okay. It always weirds me out when they do these things, but like the
Mm-hmm.
intro, because then like I don't get to see the openers.
Yeah, usually on the openers, I'll just shield drop through side platform
Okay.
as a starter or full hop the top.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't really see what happens. Okay though. Okay. Okay. This is something small, but this is something that a lot of foxes do. Is
Mm-hmm.
this right here? This wave dash away is like super useless, and it's actually like way more detrimental than anyone realizes.
Mm-hmm.
With Fox in particular. With some of the characters like Falco, his like wave dash goes further, or like his dash wave dash is a lot faster than his dash, so he has to do that here and there. With Fox, your dash is so crazy fast that every time you wave dash, so sometimes wave dashing away from your opponent can be valuable. In like small ways. Like it's because like basically you're exchanging these 13 frames of action ability from the jump squat and the waveland leg, you're exchanging that for the ability to be standing at the end of those 13 frames.
Mm-hmm.
And if like standing at the end of those 13 frames doesn't like explicitly help you, then it is explicitly hurting you. Because like you don't have, and I tell people this all the time, basically, like, let's say you were in this spot where you were in, let me go back to right before you wave dashed, right here, is that, like, let's say Marth does dash in grab here, and not, like, right on where you are. Let's say he does dash and grab, like, right here. And if you dashed back, you get an easy punish on the grab. But if you wave dash back, you don't get a punish. And so people do a lot of times where they'll do like dash in, wave dash back, and then their opponent like spot dodges. And then you don't get a punish because you were wave dashing back. Whereas if you dashed back, you can just easily dash back in immediately. So this is just like a very general movement thing that like you should keep in mind. And I just noticed it immediately because you said you switched from Falco, and I was like, wait a second, like because that's okay with Falco, and it's really really bad with Fox. So you got to keep that in
that's
mind.
like.
Okay, let me see what's happening here. Okay. I'm not really sure what your intentions were in this spot, like right there.
I think I was flubbing it, and then I tried to dash back.
Okay.
I think I was kind of just nervous there.
Okay, yeah, like the general shielding thing you're doing up here is totally fine. You should definitely just shield drop punish this though. There's kind of like this thing with when you're on the side plat, like Marth actually has a really hard time hitting you on the side, hitting your shield on the side plat without being vulnerable to shield drop punishes. It's actually pretty difficult for him because like most of the time he's gonna kind of have forward momentum with a nair or a fair and up air, and you can always just shield drop those. And if he doesn't, he has to kind of like run all the way underneath you and then do like a retreating aerial, and that's like pretty vulnerable for him too. So anytime you're on like a shield and you just, or anytime you're on a platform and you decide to go for this kind of shield mix-up, like right here, then you just have to be super ready to get the shield drop. It'll happen a lot against Marth. Okay. Okay, standard Marth. I think it's really funny that this guy's tag is a horse who can drive.
Yeah, no, everyone talks about that.
It's just like no capitals or anything. Okay, bad combo by him. Okay, good shine back air pressure. Part of me thinks that maybe you could have done like shine turnaround grab here or something. It's kind of ambiguous, I guess. Just because if let's say he like held in here, he might have been able to get like a grab and not get pushed off. It's just something small, but I think the back air is... Like, I think that if you're gonna do this back air, you want to make sure to jump straight up back air and then drift away so he can't shield grab you if he does avoid the hit. Whereas you drift in, so if he somehow shielded and stayed on stage, you would have probably died. I think in this particular case it's fine. It's just something to kind of keep in mind. It's like a general thing not to drift in there. Okay. There's something here that's weird. I'm trying to figure out what exactly. It's like the... So there's like... this part of your gameplay, which is like, hey, I'm at high percent, Marth is going to spam shield. Marth is going to spam moves more so than grab, and so I need to use a lot of shield. And that is like a totally correct assessment. But you don't want to over-rely on the shield without thinking enough about the positioning. So there's just like kind of a weird interaction here where it feels like you shield maybe like too preemptively, where like you should have kind of been moving more here. Because like at this range, so it's like whether you moved forward or back, I agree with not going to the platform because you might get stray hit and die. So the ground here is a good spot to be, but it's a little bit too preemptive of a shield, and it puts you in kind of this awkward spot. And I just think you need to be a little bit more confident with, like, movement in this spot. Like, you wave dash down, and then you dash back, and you get this dash in, but then you shield even though he, like, whiffed here.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like a weird situation where I think you need to be a little bit more confident with, like, you can actually get pretty close to Marth and before you shield, because he doesn't really have that many moves that are, like, auto, and he has, or, like, not auto, that are, like, they hit you automatically very quickly. Like, he can, like, short hop instant fair, but if he short hop instant nairs and you're right next to him, the first hit of the nair won't hit and stuff like that. So he has, like, pretty limited options when you're in close, and you just need to sort of keep in mind that, like, even when your percent is high, the scariest thing for Marth is not shield, but movement. Like, continuing to move, it makes it a lot harder for Marth to know where to swing, and will a lot of times influence his swings more so than, like, shielding, which is kind of just hoping that he's really bad there. Like, the shielding is good, but just shielding, kind of that over-shielding rather than moving, is a little bit of a bad assumption. Okay. Got the up air. Little scary here. I'm not sure I really like playing against Marth from the side plat when he's coming off the ledge, because he can do stuff right here like ledge dash up tilt, and it would have hit this back air when you landed. So I just kind of prefer to play a little bit more grounded, and I'll sort of pressure the edge, but I don't really you can't really expect too much out of it, and I think that especially when, like, let's say Marth is at, you know, this percent and you're at 0 like you're at, there's a lot of situations where you will win the mix-up and you hit him, and then he'll just kind of pop up and then drop down to ledge again. There's not a lot you can do about it. And you had to, like, win a whole mix-up here to do it. And I would just kind of be more down to just be safe and play this out, because you're one-up smash away from killing him. If you just kind of hang out in the center, let's say he gets off ledge, you shoot 2 lasers, and he's in a really bad spot because you're at 0 and in center. Just something to keep in mind. Okay, let's see. Yeah, this kind of happens a lot around this percent. With this type of thing, where you get this type of opening, and it's like, yeah, and then, you know, it's hard to kill. It's hard to do this in the moment, but probably the best answer here is a drill grab. It's because, unless you can somehow get an up smash whiff punish right here. Yeah, an up smash definitely probably would have been the best option here. I'm not sure what it killed at 88, probably on Battlefield, though. Okay. Ooh, that was a really bad down air. This is just a classic, like, approaching from too far away type of thing. So this is a bit of a Marth specific thing, and this is like a general type thing against Marth, but the entire property so Marth is basically never going to be in center. He doesn't really like being in center that much on the triplats, because Fox has so many, like, attack angles using the platforms. Like, Fox has, like, empty full hop double jump away, Fox has full hop aerials, Fox has wave land off aerials, all the grounded stuff, double jump wave land up, like, onto the top plat, then shield drop attack. So Marth doesn't really like being in this area, and a lot of his moves aren't quite as good in this area, so he really prefers to kind of hide under the platform here. And it's this nice spot for him where, like, if you go here, he can kind of get, like, these multiple up tilts and maybe set up something really nasty. He gets his platform combos. Like, he can up throw you onto the platform at lower percents here. Then, like, he can also get down throws and stuff like that. And if he's right here, he still has enough space to dash all the way into the corner, which they like. They like to do this all the way dash, and then they get a grab right here. So you have to be just really aware that this zone past this platform edge is Marth's space. And he just kind of naturally owns this space because of how his moves work. And your goal is to kind of stay under the inner edge of the opposite side platform. So I actually noticed this a couple years ago watching Cody, and then I looked into it a bit more, and this is how I kind of came up with this, is basically Marth will always camp right here. and your goal should be to also camp right here. Not like camp, but like this is kind of like where you set up your spacing, is under the inner edge of this side plat. And then a lot of the battle is kind of like getting Marth to come out to center and then hitting him. That's kind of like a good general thing to kind of think about.
Okay.
So like approaching all the way onto this platform when Marth is in the corner here is like a bit against that type of plan. It's just something to keep in mind. Ooh, yeah, notice that like when you're, as soon as you're in this space where you're like here, oh, you're on the platform, then Marth just gets this whole up tilt, nice loopy thing that he really likes that just kills like every time. So you gotta avoid. Okay, you got a short hop up air here. It's low enough percent on the DI away. Short hop up air is probably the best option. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Okay, not my favorite, but it worked. Yeah, I think your assessment is actually pretty good. Like I think your general assessment of your play, where like it's clear that you've made a bunch of like general intuitive improvements, like you're pretty clean and like the way you move and stuff like that, but it is missing, like your play is missing a sort of like pointedness of like, I'm good at this matchup, like I know how to deal with Marth, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely feeling like that vibe that you described of like, yeah, like there's a lot of good movement and all this kind of stuff, but it just doesn't it doesn't really feel super structured. So I'm trying to think of like the best way I can kind of help you through that, or like give you a direction to go. Because you are right that the place you are at is like it's like an evil whirlpool of mid-level play that a lot of people get caught in. And like you're like swimming and you can feel it tugging, you're like, oh no. like the feeling of like getting stuck at this level.
It's like pushing past that like barrier that just
exactly
hinges.
Okay, so yeah, that shine too. So how much, or like how aware are you of like game plans? Like I know you said that like you feel like you don't really have them as Fox, but like what is your did you use them a lot as Falco, or is it something you've mostly just played intuitively this whole time, or what?
With Falco more so, definitely. Like I think with Falco it kind of felt a little bit more. Actually, intuitively, Fox feels more straightforward in the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I just knew more Falco stuff, so
I
like
think Fox is more straightforward in pretty much every matchup.
yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think lasers are also a big part of that. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like a lot of my like things I've also just like heard things like offhand. Like oftentimes in this matchup I'll try to like look for like a CC against like a fair or like down tilt and kind of like push forward in and kind of like pushing behind, like overshoots pushing behind the Marth, because like Marth from the back isn't very good, you know, things like that.
Yeah, okay, so that's definitely a big one that I tell people a lot, is try to get behind Marth if you can. When he's in the air specifically, it doesn't really work on the ground. But yeah, so crossing up Marth is good. I think I'm not seeing a directedness of the combos to kind of get an edge guard.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not. It needs to kind of be like a general thing where like, hey, if Marth keeps DIing on stage, I get more up airs. And as soon as he DIs off stage, I get like a back air or a shine, and then I'm in my sort of edge guard flow chart. And I know it's only been 2 stocks, but I haven't really seen like any semblance of the whole like pipeline of like get Marth off stage, grab it, you know, Marth killer or grab edge, or like I haven't even been able to really see your edge guard flow chart yet. So I'm kind of curious to see that. but I'm also not really feeling like this idea of getting Marth like off stage quickly. But yeah, like kind of like right here. So if you were more experienced in this matchup, right here, you would just instantly jump up and shine Marth, and then go for this edge guard.
Okay.
Like it should just be a very quick type of thing. So the way the you want to like a big piece of this game is maximizing familiarity, because if you're unfamiliar with a situation, you're not going to make a good decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times there are situations in the game that we don't fully understand, and we just kind of do something because that's Melee.
Yeah.
But like you want to minimize, especially in tournament, like by like a factor of like 100, especially in tournament, you want to minimize the number of situations that you play out that you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like this idea of the game plan dictates your play. So okay, so there's kind of like this, like you can kind of take it from both ends. Where on one side you're kind of like, I'm kind of just doing things, and I want to, in general, while I'm doing things, kind of move towards this game plan that I have. And then there's the other one, which is like, I'm going to execute the things from my game plan and ignore everything else. And I think like the best general approach in tournament is kind of like, you really want to force the situations that you know the most. And I think this is easiest when, like, let's say you're practicing like a new edge guard or something, because your brain is really like, I want that new edge guard. And so your entire gameplay, from the neutral game to the way you punish to your move choice, is kind of set up around like getting that new edge guard that you're messing with in like friendlies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And tournament needs to be a little bit more like that, where you know what you're going to get against your opponent, and your goal is to try to get that stuff. Whereas like this feels like, the way you're playing it right now, it feels a lot more like I can control Fox, and when things present themselves to me, I kind of take it, and at some point it would be nice if the victory screen said I won.
Yeah.
And like that is okay just to get to this level, but it has to start becoming a little bit less exciting. Like it has to become a little bit more like, there are a lot of people in the world that you should be able to beat by just kind of going to work and just being like, well, okay, here, I'll just do this, this, and this, and then they die. And then that, it's not nearly as much fun as kind of intuitively playing it, but you kind of need to like save the intuition for the inevitable chaos that will come up when you're playing against people who are good.
Yeah.
Because Melee will always have that element of like, dude, what is going on right now? What is the situation? I need to figure it out, and I need to do a good option quickly. That'll always exist, but it should always be like a backup, or like your last resort is like, oh man, like I really did end up in this situation that's chaotic, or maybe they intended it, but I'm not used to it, I'm not ready, and then you sometimes have to go for crazy stuff. But that should be like minimized as much as possible, and you should be going for like, okay, I'm gonna dash dance, and then I'm gonna hit Marth with, lasers until he gets close enough, and then I'm gonna drill, wave shine, up throw, up air, back air, and then edge guard. And it's like, how many times can you get that? And then kind of looking at like allowing the different options in the game to unfold as tree branches of the ideal thing. Of like, okay, so I went for up throw, up air, but then this time, instead of being able to up air again, Marth DI'd way off stage. So I do up throw, up air, full hop shine. And then you're like, okay, so now I have this situation where I have Marth off stage, or I get the up air, and he's on stage. Or maybe there's spots where you do wave shine, forward throw, and stuff like that. Like, you have these general things that like these setups that you have, and because they become so familiar, things like the edge guard out of up throw, up air, full hop shine, that's an edge guard that, let's say Cody, specifically that exact edge guard, he's done like hundreds of times or thousands of times.
Yeah.
And so that familiarity a lot of times will give you the consistency that I feel like you're kind of missing by sort of very much just being like, oh, your red moves like will miss me, and mine will hit
Mm-hmm.
you. So a lot of it is, I think, just like, yeah, general game plan stuff. So we can talk about, like, you want to get Marth off stage, you want to go for the edge guard. If he stays going DIing on stage, it's basically more up airs unless you can land sometimes you can do stuff from the side plat here, like fair up smash or nair up smash.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few setups like that, but usually, and especially against better Marths, they will force you to go for the edge guard, and so your goal should be kind of like set up the most consistent setups for the edge guard that you can do, because then you start developing a little bit more of like a flow chart, like, oh, after forward throw I roll and I do Marth Killer, or after the shine, then I wait a certain amount of time before going to ledge, and you kind of start filling out these like, basically, the more you play, you naturally fill out situations. But if you play specifically to certain setups, all of those experiences are getting funneled towards the most important situations for that given matchup. So that just, like, massively can increase your efficiency at practicing a matchup when you're only practicing, like, 3 or 4 things that are strong against this character.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have any, like, questions or thoughts on this, or, like, ideas about where the lesson's going, or you wanted more
No,
or
no,
less
no,
or
no.
something, or?
This makes sense. Like,
Okay.
I think, like, you nailed it on the head of, like, I'm looking for structure, and I think, like, especially, like, flowcharts, like, on Punish is something that I'm lacking in a lot of matchups,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing, like, explicitly, like, what I want out of a Punish,
Mm-hmm.
in a certain situation. And I think, like, that's something that I'm starting to, like, lab more, and,
Mm-hmm.
like, labbing, like, certain things that are confirmed rather than just, like, landing punishes themselves. So I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the times I'm just like, I want to land something that hits and does a lot of percent,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like I should
Yeah.
be pointing it towards more, like, land something that, like, does a lot of percent, but also, like, like, can set up for an edge guard or puts me into, like, an advantageous situation that I can kind of, like, continue a string, you
Mm-hmm.
know? I think,
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of times the best way to go about that type of thing that I've noticed is you have to stay focused on the result. The
mhm,
final result is the most important thing here. The final result is always Marth loses a stock.
mhm,
And so the game is kind of a puzzle where you have to work backwards from Marth losing a stock. And, like, literally, like, have a videotape of Marth losing a stock and, like, rewind and be like, how did this happen,
mhm,
And it's like, a lot of times thinking of it in reverse helps, because you're like, okay, well, I want to get a Marth killer. And you're like, okay, so Marth up Bs, and he hits my shield, and he can't go on stage, so he dies off the ledge. And it's like, okay, so what are the conditions for that,
mhm,
And start figuring out, like, okay, so he needs to maybe not have his double jump, so maybe I had to take his double jump before I put him in this situation, or maybe I had to hit him far enough away that he had to use a double jump and stuff like that. And so, like, there's only a few ways that Martha's gonna die. He's either gonna
mhm,
die from a back air at 5 bazillion percent, he's gonna die from a shine off like an edge guard, and
mhm.
he's gonna die off of an edge hog, or he's gonna die off of like an up smash or an up air.
Yeah. Actually, I do have a question.
Yeah.
So, like, when you send Marth kind of, like, down towards, like, where they want to grab the ledge, but you can't really, like, when you jump off the ledge and they can just react with an up B and kind of you get into that, like, wall tick situation. Like, what's the best game plan for that, like, situation? Like,
Um,
how should I set up off of, like, a situation where I know I can't really make it in time?
a lot of times it depends on your percent, because, like, let's say you're at, like, super low percent, you can just, like, wave dash to edge and fast fall and hope you get it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, if he kind of tips you with the little tip part of the up B, it's like weak hit, he'll do like 4 damage, and it's a 50-50, because if he
Mm-hmm.
goes instantly, he'll hit you out of the wave dash. But a lot of times, him going early to hit you out of your wave dash when you're at low percent will make him just kind of go on stage next to you and you can hit him.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, then sometimes you can act like you're going to go to ledge and it's just full hop or something and he'll get hit. But a lot of times just going to edge if you're at low percent is good. And then when you're at higher percent, a lot of times there's just nothing you can do and you have to kind of back off. You can still go for the wave dash there, depending on like where he is, but a lot of times you probably won't get like a punish out of it.
Yeah.
The edge guard on Marth is rather tricky. I think the important details to keep in mind are like, so first of all, I think that everybody who's trying to learn how to edgeguard Marth should just pick Marth against like their friend or something who's good at edgeguarding Marth. Like, just find a top player, be like, hey, I know you're good at. For me, the one that really helped me was Billy Bo Peep. I think he's really good at edgeguarding Marth. So I don't know if you know Billy or anything, but you can just hit up any player you know who's good at edgeguarding Marth and be like, hey, can you just edgeguard me for a few minutes? And just jump off stage and just up B back over and over. And you'll kind of get a feeling of like, okay, this doesn't feel very good. Because against somebody who knows how to edgeguard Marth really well, his recovery feels pretty awful. And once you kind of have a better idea of like why it feels bad, it's a lot easier to get like the grab edge backwards double jump edge guards, you know, the Marth killer edge guards, like drop shine edge guards. All those things start becoming a little bit more clear once you kind of know what it feels like from the Marth end. So this is kind of like a rare case where I just really recommend that people try it from the Marth end. It just helped me a lot. But yeah, there's not always going to be right answers, and that's why a lot of times it's kind of like that whole, like, I'm going to try to kill Marth with Marth Killer right here, and you just try to do it, and you see why it, or like, why it works or not, and you just kind of have to, like, get a lot of experience in those particular situations where you're edgeguarding Marth.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, right now, a lot of your experience against Marth comes from sort of on-stage stuff, at least, you know, extrapolating from this match. It really does feel like there's a lot more experience going on with, like, kind of, like, hitting Marth on stage and stuff like that. Okay, so the other thing is, like, so we know we have these kill conditions where, yes, I scored a point because Marth lost his stock. And so part of the way that we get to that is we think of, like, one step past it. Things like like there's sort of like dash attack setups against Marth, like dash attack up air at certain percents, or there's like forward throw up smashes. There's like there's all these like little niche kills that are against Marth, or like
yeah, I actually looked for that earlier in the game.
Okay, yeah, and then like up throw up air and stuff like that. So we know these kills, and we can kind of like let me think of like the best way. So like, let's say you have a kill out of a grab at 100 and they're at 90. You should be able to see that and be like, hey, if I hit him one more time and grab, I win.
Yeah.
And so then let's say if somebody's at, 40, then you're like, oh, okay, hey, if I hit him, 4 times, then they're at my percent where I can do my grab thing. And so part of, like, one of the biggest parts of the game, to the point where it's like a slippy stat, is like openings per kill. And probably, honestly, like the biggest puzzle in this game outside of, like raw neutral, like reading people, the biggest puzzle to solve is how to minimize that, and like which types of decisions to make to get from A to B, in terms of, you have these kind of like, I like to call them kind of like, I don't know if you ever played the board game Sorry, where you land on the first spot and then it like slides you. And so like, that's kind of how I think about it, is like, I'm looking for openings which can lead into other things which lead into my kill setups. And so like, there's that spot which is now famous, which is Mango Zane, last stock at Summit, where Mango was on the ground and he's just dash dancing, and then Zane does that like awful double jump fair where he loses his double jump, and Mango sees it, and like, a lot of people there, a lot of people would have up aired. because they were like, oh, that's some free up air percent right there, you know? But Bango sees the double jump, and he goes, okay, I don't even need the up air, because as soon as I shine him from this position, he has no double jump, and he's off stage, and so he just does the shine, and then puts himself in his position where he'll edge guard out of that position, and it worked out for him.
Yeah.
So sort of being able to kind of, like, see the kill things, and you want to just reduce it as much as possible. Like, it's better to not hit your opponent. Yes, and this is something that a lot of people don't grasp, so buckle up for this one. But it's better to hit your opponent 0 times than to hit them 3 times and not kill out of any of those 3.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a difficult concept for people, because they're like, yeah, I'm winning. And it's like, yeah, but every single win, every single time you hit your opponent incurs risk. And, you know, obviously there's some risk to playing safe also, but inherently playing safe by definition has a lot less risk than trying to hit them. So, like, there's always going to be a little risk, but attacking or trying to hit your opponent, winning a situation, always incurs a significant amount of risk. So you really need to minimize those as much as possible. And there are a lot of spots where, like, if you see a possible nair, but you know the nair won't kill, it's really a big part of improvement to be like, no, don't go for that nair. What could kill here? And a lot of times when you take that extra second to think about it, you'll just lose the situation because you're taking a second to think about it. So it's not something you want to do in tournament. This is definitely something for friendlies, but I think it's something that can definitely help. Okay, so let's just keep going through this a little bit and see what else comes up that we can talk about. Yeah, for instance, this is like a great example of like something you should literally never do, because if you're wrong here, and he does, let's say, shield, and then does, you know, shield drop, double jump, nair, or something, you'll probably die off of this. Maybe not, maybe you'll live, but he'll at least get an edge guard most of the time, and he'll probably kill you. And what's happening right here, so that's your worst case, is you lose a stock. Your best case out of this nair is nothing. Like, you already got your best case. Like, you got forward momentum, and you hit a nair. And it's just not giving you anything. So, like, this is a situation, and, you know, like I said, in the moment, it's very difficult to tell these things. And it's something that it's more like the way it feels for you to be playing in tournament is not ever going to be that different, like the way it feels right now. But you'll get better and better patterns that you build up to, like, sort of guide you in tournament. So, like, it's not that you need to be thinking about all this stuff in tournament, because that's obviously impossible. Like, you kind of have a set amount of brain power that you can use in tournament. But when you encounter a situation like this in friendlies, and you hit Marth, and nothing happens, you kind of have to stop and be like, okay, wait a second. Maybe that just wasn't worth it at all. You know, and a lot of times, especially against Marth, because he has this kind of weird floaty weight, a lot of times these moves won't directly lead to anything, and you just have to be very focused on the idea that, like, I need to get as much as possible out of every opening, and when I don't, that is like a big deal. Like, a lot of times it kind of feels in the game like, hey, I got 20% on my opponent, nothing happened to me. That's not a bad thing. But it is a bad thing in the long run, because you incurred risk. It's an important thing to keep in mind. Okay. It's a small thing, just never, ever, ever go to ledge here.
Yeah.
If you go high, the literal best option he can hit you with is a nair. And nair is both SDI-able, and if you DI, you'll live. So you just go high here. Okay. I don't really like these double jump things. A lot of times people have this like, this is actually another really, really common pattern. It's interesting how many people do this. Double jumping through the top platform and then fast falling through the top platform with an aerial is something that should be done 0 times ever. And it's really interesting why that so many people do this. Like a lot of people do this exact double jump aerial. And it must just work a lot on people or something. But like it's objectively horrible. So this was fine. This jump in was fine because you got a chance to hit him. Didn't take it, which is fine. Hard to react to him whiffing the fair. So you go for the double jump. But in this case, just please wave land on the platform or just land. Like this whole fast fall through thing, you will just get dash dance grabbed by every good Marth on the planet until you stop doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's one of those things, kind of like that wave dash away, where I would like you to just completely remove it.
Yeah.
Yeah, see this wave dash too? Feels natural to do it. Feels like you're moving a bunch. This one right here. Completely worthless movement. Like, awful. Like, this actually ruins so much more than you might realize. So just try really hard to stop doing these. Someone in chat said delete everything in your brain except fine dining. Yeah, pretty much. It's actually, you have to just delete everything except for the things that, like, hit super duper hard. The second one, I think it's a little bit much to kind of do it a second time, and then also he's kind of jumpy and you're kind of daring in, and I don't know. This is definitely a tournament down air where you're just like, man, I'm kind of scared. Like, down air, go! But obviously it's like not a super good decision. You should basically try to avoid that. Okay. Small, but I would rather you do shine grab here if you're gonna do the running shine. Then this is fine also. It's okay. Maybe like it's just really hard to get a combo out of this. I think if you miss this right here, I wouldn't go for this shine right here. A lot of times, so another thing to keep in mind, and I think I mentioned this a little earlier, is that the strongest thing you can ever do against Marth is changing your position. Hitboxes are not as good against Marth in the sense of, like, when you think he's gonna do something. Like, hitboxes are good against Marth when you think he's gonna move. Like, you think he's gonna run away and stuff like that. Then hitboxes are amazing versus Marth. But if you think he's gonna, like, let's say, counterattack here, I would much prefer you did a dash away right here. Because the shine is not going to hit him anyway. It kind of slows you down. It forces you to wave dash. Whereas if you dashed, you know, if he dashes in, you might hit him. If he dashes away, you have another neutral reset, and you have 13 damage. So, I noticed you do this a lot too, where you kind of like go like really far, and it's kind of like resetting is not a bad thing to do, but resetting in a way that puts you into the corner is a very bad thing to do.
Yeah.
And, okay, so this is sort of a very general game plan thing against Marth, but I went over it. I would recommend you watch my Zuppy lesson on Fox Marth that I uploaded recently. I think that one is a very good explanation of this concept, and it'll expand on it more than I probably can right now. But basically, I call it Tether theory, and it's the idea that Fox at a very far distance, like let's say you weren't in the corner right here, but this was just like the general spacing. This distance is like extremely safe, right? And that's why you came back here, is because Marth has literally no options that he can hit you with at this range. But you also have nothing you can hit Marth with, so it's just kind of like a general safe neutral that happens, and this is basically the limit of like safety against Marth, which is why you're retreating this far. But I'm gonna basically tell you that you don't need to retreat this far, basically ever. The scariest zone you can be in against Marth is like right here. This kind of middle spacing. And the problem is the middle spacing is also really juicy because you can use it to bait Marth out. And so the kind of general game plan for this match. Okay, so let me go actually explain the final third of it is when you get in reasonably close to Marth. So I will say basically in the range where if Marth dashes back and you dash in at the same time because Fox is faster, you'll catch him.
Yeah.
And that's something about right here. And so when you get into this, so the entire matchup is basically you start out in this range. And your goal needs to be, I want to be in this range. So the idea is that when Fox is in this range, he actually wins the mix-up. Like, he just wins it. As soon as you're in close range, you can do anything your heart desires. And it literally just beats Marth. Marth cannot fight in this range. He loses almost every mix-up. He loses almost every situation. And the more you practice being up and close against Marth, the better at it you'll get. So it's basically like a situation where, you know, inevitably the game will come down to mix-ups. But what you want is to be up close, and your mix-ups are far more powerful up close than his are. So that is your goal, is to get in this close range, and then spam any move you feel like. You can dash dance a little bit and spam a move. You can just throw out a move. You can full hop and put out a move. You can move in close and wave dash down, and he'll oftentimes be so afraid that he'll just keep going backwards, and you'll get a bunch of space. It's just, like, you're so close, and it's just so overwhelming that you have all these moves that it just puts Marth in an overwhelmingly bad position, where if he decides to hit you or he wants to fight in any way, he'll literally lose like 8 out of 10 times. So Marth desperately wants you to not be in this range. And so, obviously, if you're at this range, you're super safe. And so the way to get into this little close range here is to be in the middle range. But remember, the middle range is the most dangerous place you can possibly be in the matchup. So the goal is to basically, you want to get in close as quickly as you can or as effectively as you can, and you can use this little danger zone here as kind of like a bridge to get in close, because, like, basically you want to use this space to get to here, because obviously you can't go from here to here. You need to use this space to get to here. And so you want to use the space to get close while remaining in this space for as little time as possible. So you can kind of do stuff where you're here. Let's say Marth is staying in place. You can do stuff where you're here, and you poke into this range, and then you come back out. And then sometimes you poke into this range, and then you just press it forward. And sometimes you poke into this range, and you dash dance for just a split second, and then you push in or go back. But you don't want to remain in this spot. A lot of people have that issue where they kind of play the whole matchup in this range because it feels a little comfortable, but the risk reward is actually pretty heavily in Marth's favor here, which is why the matchup feels so bad a lot of times, is because of this middle range. And so it's just very important to be like, I'm at this far range, I'm chilling, and then I need to get into this close range. But when you're right here, okay, and so also really quick, the reason I call it tether theory is because the idea is you get close enough to Marth and you kind of like hook on this tether to him, and then the idea is that he is not going to get away. Like, the only way for him to get out of the way is to break to that middle spacing. And so as soon as he gets to the middle spacing, the quote tether is broken, and your options are basically, you know, rush in, try to get the tether again, or, you know, get away and maybe shoot a couple lasers and then kind of come back in. But, like, while the tether is still attached, Marth has not gotten a significant distance away from you. It's party time. So I think this was fine here. So let me describe it. So you get in the range and you kind of hit Marth. Notice he does this really silly roll because he's terrified of, like, the tether range. Then the tether range breaks here. And so you do this full hop a little bit. I don't really understand this full hop double jump, but you end up here. And I can understand feeling a little bit threatened by this range, but you can use little traps here rather than having to go all the way away into the corner, because, you know, you're kind of just in it. Like, against Marth, you're going to win with mix-ups inevitably. You can't beat him with whiff punishes because his sword is so freaking big and he's so fast. And so, like, you're already in center. You're kind of in it. Retreating to safety is not very good, just because you're putting yourself in a worse position. Because if you retreat all the way into that safety zone and then Marth just takes a little bit more space, you're going to be in this same spacing except you're in the corner, which is not good. So a lot of times you can take these situations as a position to potentially outplay Marth and get back in the tether range. And so the reason you're running away here is because you subconsciously can feel his aggression. You can feel that he's like, now it's my turn, I'm coming for you, right?
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, I better get out of here. But you can use that because if Marth tries to get close and hit you, he's unwittingly putting himself in the tether range. So here, what you could do is you double jump to here, whatever. Let's say you already did this, you're already in this range. You can dash back a little bit, see if Marth throws out something right here. Because a lot of times Marth will just be like, oh, they're going to stay in. Marth wants you to remain in this middle area. So if you just give up a little space and then immediately move in close, a lot of times you can get him to sort of give up the tether spacing. So like right here, if you had dashed back right here and then come in, if he whiffed a forward air here, a nair, a forward smash, it doesn't actually matter what he whiffs because you're quickly coming in to reestablish this tether.
Mm-hmm.
So this was just a little bit of a missed opportunity here, and it kind of put you in a bad spot. I just wanted to kind of go over like the general idea of like kind of getting in. So like right here, the reason this doesn't work is because you are attacking from the middle range. See this? Attacking from the middle range is a guaranteed loss against Marth. So right here, attacking from this range is a guarantee. You're not ever going to win because he's just going to throw out any move he feels like, and that will prevent you from moving in. Yeah. And that's why a lot of times getting in this range, you can kind of pretend to approach Marth, will throw out a move, and then you use the lag from his move to get in really close and then start this whole tether jamboree.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the reason you got hit here. You approached from the middle range. Remember, the middle range is not for hitting Marth. The middle range is exclusively to get into the tether range. That is the entire purpose of the middle range. And so, so right here, Marth just gets this grab. So you were in the tether range. This was a hard read on Marth's part. Not a lot you can do about it, but if you play the tether situations correctly, in the long run, this type of grab is probably disadvantageous for Marth. Because you could have done a full hop mix-up, you could have, like right here, you could have just dashed at Marth and done an aerial or drilled, and it probably would have beaten this. You could have dashed back and dashed in and hit him. A lot of times, once you get into the tether range, that's the thing, is the tether range doesn't necessarily always mean attack. It does quite a bit. But a lot of times you can just be like, I'm in the tether range, and the Marth will be like, counterattack, and then you're just like, you idiot, now I whiff punish you. So that's kind of like what could have happened there. But that was generally the spacing you want. So, okay, so look at this. So talking about it through that lens, we have this. So you reset, you're kind of at this little too far away of spacing. So Marth will almost always wave dash in here to create this middle spacing, which he does. Now look at this, you're at this awkward spacing, which Marth loves so much. So your goal needs to be, how do I trick Marth to get from here to here? And so you're dash dancing a bit. If Marth moved in right here, you might be able to get a tether thing. That's fine. So you move in here. So this is good. Like you played this neutral totally fine. And now you're here. But the problem is sort of, I think so first of all, you're attacking at the middle range here. But what happened was you thought you were getting into the tether range subconsciously. Marth created the middle range, and that was why he got the outplay on you. Was because
I think there's also this thing that I do that's I think is bad, but I kind of do it as like a kind of like a weird bait thing where it's like, you're talking about the middle range, so I'll like throw out like a shine, which is like fast in that range, and then try to like go for like an aggressive aerial out of it to kind of like stuff something that kind of like is meant to punish it. But I think,
like running shine aerial.
Yeah, so like that's what I was kind of trying to do there, into like like if they try to dash and grab or something like that. But I think it's a habit that I built that's kind of bad.
Yeah, it's not really something you want to do a lot. I think that's something that like maybe when you're really good you can kind of reintegrate it, but it's not really part of the basics. So what happens here is you think that Marth was kind of going to stop like right here. So you think you're kind of in a fight zone, but Marth just moved back a little bit. So now you're kind of fighting out of the middle range, and you just have to be really careful of this occurring, because Marth just completely won the spacing setup. But then right here, right here, when this happens, and Marth lands right here, instead of this roll, if you had done a dash back here, you could have set up like a tether type situation. Yeah, approaching from too far away again. This seems to be a major issue in this matchup. Like, you can't approach at this range.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. You will literally just lose every situation against Marth. Yep, right there. Approaching from middle range. I hope you can see this as clearly as I'm pointing it out.
No. Like, it makes
this is
sense.
super clearly approaching from, like, Marth's ideal range. Okay, yeah, combos. And yeah, look at this. Why is there this retreat? Right here. This is a potential situation to pressure Marth.
Yeah, I can just like shield drop down and then
you could have just shield dropped, and right here you saw the up tilt. Just go in with anything. You're in a tether situation. You freaking win. But when you go back, see this didn't cause a huge negative for you in terms of results. Nothing really negatively happened, but you did go from a positive situation to a neutral one. Mm-hmm. So you had Marth in the corner. He was in his end lag. You had the tether spacing. This is the time, And by kind of going back, you're like, okay, now, I'm in center, Marth's in the corner, blah, blah, like, we're kind of even. And then you kind of have to go back in, but you've got to be careful you really don't want to be jumping in at, like, this range. This is just actually suicide. So, like, yeah, an example of this combo thing is, like, right here. So Marth's hit stun won't actually end for a little bit longer. So like let's say I see this, okay, or I don't know, some pro fox sees this. There are like two options that go through my head right here. Three, I guess. The first option is I'm going to jump up and I'm going to up air Marth, like double jump up air, and then I'm going to hope that I can get to this position and up air Marth again, which I doubt it. So that up air is probably not what I would really want there. Second, you could use a fair like this, but just a full hop fair. Like if you're going to double jump here, you want to use the up air, but you could have waited a little longer here and probably gotten a full hop fair right here, and then done like full hop fair into up tilt up air, or full hop fair up smash and tried to hit something like that. The last option that goes through my head is something kind of wacky, where I do like a full hop, single hit up air, up tilt, and go for an up air. Because like all three of those have some case where it leads to a kill.
Yeah.
And so the difficulty is kind of weighing which one of those has the highest possibility of killing. But I am exclusively, my brain literally will not give me an option that doesn't lead to Marth's death somehow. And that you need to kind of be working on that a little bit more. Where that fair was just never ever gonna kill. Yeah. In any universe, attacking from too far away with this full hop. A lot of it is the ground spacing, where you got to get close before you do stuff like that. Just something that kind of keeps coming up. Yeah, it's just. Yeah, this is a fundamental... It's really coming out this game a lot harder than last game, but this is not your approaching range. Yeah. You gotta... Don't even... Because you're getting to this range and you're thinking, now I approach. And it's yeah, now you approach into this range and then you hit him. That needs to be the idea there, rather than I'm at middle range, now I hit him. It's middle range leads to close range, then I hit him. Okay, we're about at an hour. Any thoughts or questions?
I think you explained everything pretty simply. I think the things are more general, so I don't really have any niche questions to
That's
ask.
true, yeah. A lot of it is kind of vague stuff, but I think that's kind of what you needed, was kind of a lot of just sort of more general guide type things rather than
Yeah.
like specific situations. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think like what I was looking for was like looking like where I can push my improvement rather
Mm-hmm.
than like, like X, like, like this is really good like in this specific situation,
Right. Okay.
which I think worked really well.
Okay, yeah, I think we definitely went over a lot of good stuff then. Okay, yeah, I'll send you my payment stuff and
I paid you
oh,
already.
you paid me already? Oh,
Yeah.
great. Okay. And yeah, if you have any extra questions or like you have a clip or something, like don't hesitate to send it over. Like I don't mind doing a little follow up on the lesson if you're confused about something. So,
Hmm. All
all
right.
right. Sounds good. I will talk to you later and I hope you have a good one.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a
Great.
good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.